Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
Aloha, all of you amazing men and women out there. Welcome to Men of Abundance. I am your host, Wally Carmichael. We have an amazing guest today. I am absolutely positive you're going to be entertained and get a lot out of this conversation between me and our featured guest today. Now, as usual, before we get started today, I want to give you an opportunity to help me keep the mic on here at Men of Abundance, and at the same time give you something of great value. So today's show is brought to you by Beachbody On Demand. You've heard me talk about this before if you've listened to past episodes. This is a system that I have personally used in my health and fitness over the last 2 or 3 years, and I absolutely love it because it gives me the freedom to work out when and where I want to, because I can stream all of my workouts from my smartphone, from a tablet, from my computer, even from my TV, since I have the Roku. I get to pick what workout I feel like doing for that day, if it's Insanity or yoga or P90X or 22-minute hardcore. I get to pick where I want to do the workout, which is normally on my back lanai. If I want to go to the gym, if I'm doing a workout that needs weights, I can take my phone to the gym. I can take my trainer to the gym, and we can get through the workout using what equipment I need at the gym. Beachbody On Demand also tracks all of my workouts. I have my meal plans built in there. I can create a meal plan specifically for myself and what my goals are. I just can't say enough about how convenient Beachbody On Demand is. And later on in the show, I'm going to tell you how you can get a 30-day free trial so that you can try it out before you buy it. But I'm absolutely convinced that you're going to love it. Our featured guest today has one heck of a story on top of other stories on top of other stories. He is an amazing individual. And in fact, one of his stories was turned into a movie. You might have heard of it. It's called Sully. And Sully is the movie about the airplane that landed in the Hudson. Dave already had one heck of a story before that event occurred. And we're going to talk about that when we get into what he did before the event and what he's done since. Since the event, he's gone on to be a motivational speaker, mentor, and author. In his presentations, he shares and teaches the 12 resources to create your own personal flight plan. Now, here's an interesting fact, or something I found interesting anyway, and we talk about this later in the conversation. But on top of being a top sales producer, Dave was also director of security for the international and renowned speaker Tony Robbins. He did that for about 10 years. Men of Abundance, I want to introduce to you Mr. David Sanderson. Dave, welcome to Men of Abundance, man. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Wally. I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's really exciting. The first time we talked, I don't know, goodness, it seemed like we talked for about an hour and a half or so, and just getting to know each other. It was a really good conversation. I felt just amazed after that conversation.
Well, same here. I think when you have an attitude of gratitude, as they say, you can build rapport pretty quickly with people. Yeah,
absolutely. So where are you at in the world today?
I'm actually sitting in Charlotte, North Carolina today, not traveling until next week, and then all the fun starts again.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before when we first talked. I like Charlotte. I was in Fayetteville for quite a while, for about 2-3 years, and not a whole lot going on there as far as I'm concerned. A lot of testosterone, thanks to the 82nd Airborne Division and whatnot. But we drove all over North Carolina, and I liked Charlotte. It's pretty nice out there.
Yeah, you're right about Fayetteville. It's great warriors out there. I've been there a few times, but Charlotte's sort of the happening place. It's like a mini Atlanta, and it's where one of the biggest, fastest, and biggest growing cities in the country right now.
Yeah, I dig it. It's nice out there. Yeah. So, I like to start out the show basically the same way I start pretty much every single morning, which is with an attitude of gratitude. It just makes such a great difference in my day. What do you have to be grateful for today, Dave?
Well, today I'm just really grateful that all my family's healthy right now. I've had, unfortunately, some friends who got ill and a couple who have passed away recently. So just having health and having energy to be able to do it to accomplish our mission here for the day.
That is a lot to be grateful for. There's a lot of people that do not have their health, and There's many reasons for that, which we won't really get into right now. It is a big part of who I am as far as health and fitness and trying to get people to live a healthy and abundant life. So that is certainly a lot to be grateful for.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I was at an event with Tony Robbins a few years ago, and I remember a lady came up, and she basically I was with Tony, and she said that I pray for your health so you can have that health to continue what you're doing. And I thought that was one of the nicest compliments and prayers I've ever heard from somebody, but not to them, but for their health, so they can have what they need to do to fulfill their mission. So I sort of took that and hijacked it.
Yeah, that is indeed. And, you speak of Tony Robbins, and that man, he's one of those guys that he's really, really big on mindset, of course. And his mindset is such that he does not get sick, because he tells himself he is not going to get sick. I mean, the guy hardly has time to get sick. But I just find that amazing that he has that mindset and that mind power over his body.
Well, I was with him for over 10 years, traveling the world with him, and I've seen it up close and personal. And, of course, he demands of his security team the same thing he demands of himself. So you've got to raise your standard and step up the game. So I understand how he does it. And it's a combination of a lot of things, but it's hard to get him down. It's extremely hard to get him down, and so the strategies that he shares on that, I would take to the bank and share with other people that if you don't want to get sick or you want to have full energy at all times, there is a strategy just like for anything else.
Yeah, absolutely, and he definitely has it down, and he's got an amazing background that further builds onto that. But I want to get into your background. I want to find out more about you. I gave a very brief bio before we got started here, but I want to hear from you. I know you've got an amazing background. That's why I asked you to come onto the show.
Well, thank you. Well, I had 30 plus years in sales, and all the way from your knocking on doors, selling copiers, when I started out in sales, to being in high technology and major account sales from some of the biggest companies in the world. So I put my dues in, and I learned a lot. And one of the things that during that tenure is that I made a goal back in the early 90s to keep investing in myself, and that's and I can't talk enough about investing in yourself and personal development, and I still do that today. Every year I make a personal development goals every year, because I think you still got to keep going, and you're never too old to learn. But about 30 years after my sales career began, I was on a sales trip and finishing a 3-day business trip to New York, and that's when my life started changing for another direction. I was on the last passenger off the plane that crashed into the Hudson River, noticed Miracle on the Hudson, and it was a routine business day, nothing unusual. And all of a sudden, you go from 35,000 feet, and all of a sudden you're descending into the Hudson River. So that changed my life. And candidly, why it was going on, I didn't know how it was going to change my life. I just knew I was alive, and I thought I'd go back to work the next day, just to go about business as usual. But things have a way of playing out a different way. So I was quickly put into the media spotlight along with many of us that day. But then, what we talked about Tony Robbins a moment ago, and I was with Tony for 10 years as his security director. And, that night, Tony was the only one that called me in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And he reached out to me and he found me. And, I tell people he's got the resources to do that. It's not like he's a pauper. He knows how to find people when he needs to talk to them. And I was very honored he did that. But he and I maintained a high level of contact for right after the plane incident and plane crash. And he was coaching me the whole time. And he was really the one who spurred me to take that next direction in my life, because as I was, working with him, I was still in sales. Every time I would pick him up at the airport or meeting for the first time for one of our trips, he'd always ask me, "Are you still working for that company? When are you going to start working for yourself?" And he would just get in my grill, and candidly, it's hard to make excuses to Tony. And, I got to a point where I couldn't make any more excuses, but this happened. And then he said, "This is your time." So he sort of gave me the impetus and the coaching and the strategies on how to do it. And, that's why I made my move out of the corporate life into entrepreneurship. I started learning the basics like everybody does. And I made mistakes likewise, but I started started my little company a few years ago, and now I get to travel the world. Not at the same level as Tony, of course. He has 30 years on me, but I travel the world impacting people, and with my books are out now and doing other things, and I'm just very honored that to be able to do that. So that's a little bit about me. I got my wife and 4 kids here in Charlotte, and like I mentioned earlier, they're all healthy. I don't know about happy, but they're healthy, and that's all I can ask for right now. They'll get their happiness one way or another.
Yeah, you made me laugh doing some of this stuff. Yeah. I've never had the opportunity at this point, not yet, to meet Tony face to face. But I'll tell you, when I see the documentaries and I see his stuff, and when he talks about getting in your grill, when I see him getting in people's grills, right up in their face, and the way his stare is, literally the hair on the back of my neck stands up. And I would love to experience that face to face. It's terrifying. The man is just huge and terrifying.
It is. He comes from I think what the difference, Wally, is I've seen him do it hundreds of times. He comes from it, as you can tell, from an aspect of love. So it's not personal. And he's coming from it to help you and benefit you. And candidly, one of the biggest challenges, as you coming from the military, you appreciate this. People just not telling it like it is. Mm-hmm. And like he tells you, don't see it worse as it is, don't see it better, just see it as it is, and then attack it. And that was the strategy that he taught me years ago. And you're right. I think when he looks you in the eye and starts grilling you, it's not because he wants to tear you down. It's to give you a perspective on you're good enough to do this, and you got to get confidence in yourself, and you need self-esteem in yourself. And we're going to figure this thing out and get it done right now.
Yeah, just amazing, absolutely amazing. So let's talk about I want to talk a little bit about the plane crash. I want to talk about the moments that the plane was actually going down. What was the general? I've seen the movie, and I'd also like to ask you, how the movie depicted the situation from kind of start to finish. But really, the time of the plane was going down. What was the general? What were people doing? How were they reacting as compared to how you were reacting?
It once everybody heard the explosion, and when I heard it, candidly, I just thought the plane lost an engine. So it didn't startle me because I fly over 100 times a year. And one of the distinctions that may have come through the movie, but you had to watch for it, is the passenger makeup of that plane, because it was primarily business people, so who travel a lot. So I think initially no one really was getting out of sorts, because everybody thought, okay, go back, get another plane, no big deal. It happens. But when the captain said his famous words, brace for impact, is when people really understood this was a potentially dire situation. And those are the words Captain Sullenberger uses. I thought it was serious. He says dire. I'll take his words. And that was the moment, where no one was losing it. The only thing you heard on the plane was somebody in the back. You heard the flight attendants going, brace, brace, brace. But there was a lady in the back saying the Lord's Prayer, because I think everybody at that point was sort of resigned that this thing's going down. And when planes go down, especially in rivers or in water, it's usually not a good outcome. And I think people were checking in with whether there's their family or whether it's with their creator, like I was, to make sure that I had everything in line. Because I tell people, and I sort of joke about it, I wanted to go up, not down. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make sure I was checking in with my creator to make sure I was, whatever needed to be done, let's get it done right now. Let's let me get reconciled pretty quickly. And I think a lot of people were having those similar thoughts. But no, as we were going down, no one was losing it. So, answer your second question. I think if you've seen the movie, the third depiction of the incident, the plane going down, is extremely accurate. That is, I think, and I tell people, I think you saw pretty much what happened inside that plane in the third recollection as he was talking to the NTSB. What really happened that day. Yeah,
that part is the part that really amazed me. Now, Captain Sully, right?
I do. He and I actually shared the same birthday, and we shared the stage before, so he and I know each other pretty well.
Very interesting. So how did Tom do as far as depicting the personality?
That was one thing I was actually looking for, Wally. And I thought he pretty well nailed it, because Captain Sullenberger's stoic, humble, focused, doesn't get emotional, even though I'm sure there were times he got emotional. And I thought Tom Hanks played it extremely well. I thought the gentleman, Aaron Eckhart, played Jeff Skiles extremely well, because Jeff Skiles is a little more dry, a little more comedic, a little more, talkative. So I think they did a tremendous job in casting for that movie.
Yeah, that is funny because my wife and I were literally this morning having a conversation about casting for movies. We just talk about stuff like that, and there's some movies that are just casted so well, and that was, as far as I'm concerned, one of them. But I didn't know the characters of the individuals, like we refer to, like Star Trek, the newer Star Trek and stuff. How they cast a younger Captain Kirk and all the younger characters, how well they did that, and we hadn't even considered Sully because we didn't have a reference. So that's cool to get that reference from you.
Well, I appreciate the question. No one's ever asked me that question yet, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So now, as far as you say that everybody pretty much flew quite a bit. Now, I've flown quite often in my life all over the world, and I would hope that, I go through these scenarios as we do in the military. We consistently put our mind and our body through scenarios so that we can be more prepared when everything goes wrong and we know how to react. So I would hope that I would act as calm and collected as you did, and as you say that the people on the plane did, because also I have training in resiliency. I'm a master resiliency trainer that I was trained through the military because of all of the issues that pop up, within our family members and stuff like that. So I do train on resilience and how to be resilient in situations like that. I would hope that I would act that way, but do you think that anything in your past helped you or even some of the other members, some of the other passengers react the way they did?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I actually wrote a blog about this several weeks ago. Right after when the movie came out, I was doing a lot of media interviews. This question came up, and what I said is, I think the quote that I use is, those who have the humility to prepare will have the confidence to execute when that moment comes. And so I think total preparation you saw with him, but me likewise, because I in my blog I wrote about an incident when I was in Boy Scouts, and this was back when I was 12 or 13 years old. And I was getting this thing called the Order of the Arrow Award. I wanted to go for it, which basically is you basically had to do a lot of different tasks to earn this award. It's a big, prestigious award. And one of the things, I was 12 years old. My dad dropped me off in Columbus, Ohio. Said, "I'll see you in 3 days." And so I was by myself at 12 or 13, going to have to do all these things. And one of the things we had to do is, you got no sleep at all, sort of like the military. They were testing you at the level, but the one thing I talked about is we had to cross a river with our backpacks to get to the other side, because we had another task we had to do on the other side of the river. And, you had to figure out how you're going to do you walk all the way around the river, or do you go across it? And I actually swam across the river with my backpack to get across, and with no sleep. And I said, I think that one moment, as I was thinking, really helped, probably gave me a great preparation mentally, because on the plane that day, I had no control of the situation. I got in the river. I had to swim for my life. I had my clothes on, but I wasn't scared, because I had that preparation. So as I write in my book, Moments Matter, one of the things I realized is all these moments in your life will lead you up to that one critical moment, and you just don't know which one of those moments will make all the difference. And that's why we call the book Moments Matter, because it was a culmination of things in my life that got me to that moment, just like other people on the plane. I remember there's a gentleman, Mark, who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. He was up front. He was giving direction with people up front who needed some direction. So I think everybody was on that plane at a certain place for a reason, with the backgrounds they had, to pull off something that had never been pulled off before in the history of aviation.
Yeah, and I often say, quite often I say, collect experiences, not stuff. And what you just said there in your book, Moments Matter, take that to a whole new level that I just thought about, just as you were saying that, because experiences are what make us stronger in times of adversity, whether they're good experiences or bad experiences. And I just think that's amazing. And I'm definitely going to get a hold of your book, because it's right up the alley of what I like to read and put into my mind.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And that's why when I started being I referenced Tony again, he sort of gave me that perspective, which you just share with the audience here, is he put me and all my team in experiences where it made us grow. And things were made us very uncomfortable. But you know what? I think all those things paid off one place or another in my life, where, I didn't think much about it when that was going down. So, I really truly believe that day, if you saw the movie Sully as you did, you saw all the things that led up to him being able to do what he did that day. It wasn't, all those just coming together. Is like you said, making all those deposits, all those years for that one big cash out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had such. I don't know if we had the conversation after the movie. I don't know that anybody else could have done that. I know there's a lot of very experienced pilots out there, but his experience certainly, without a doubt, made him able to make such an amazing landing. And on top of that, at the end, when they were basically accusing him of the whole thing, the way he basically laid it all out for them and had them test certain things, that came from experience. That was just pure experience.
Yep. And he didn't lose his mind over it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see how anybody else could have easily. I was losing my mind just sitting there watching, right. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's things I want to say to those people, man. But I don't want to assume that plane crash was your kick in the gut moment. And if it is, that's perfect. We'll go from there. But I would like to hear that kick in the gut moment that was, led up to a pivot point in your life, either personal or career.
I think I've had in my life, and in my career, I believe, I got let go of my first sales job, and I was, at that point, I didn't understand why. And I was probably pretty immature, but I didn't understand why. But what happened, it all of a sudden gave me an opportunity to grow to another level with another sales job. I think that was a kick in the gut moment. But I tell you, I think, my time with Tony, he challenged me constantly, and there were times when he would tear me down pretty quick. When you think you got like you had that tall poppy syndrome they call it in Australia, right? You think you're a little bit bigger than you really are, and you get down, and all of a sudden you're thinking, man, I'm a loser, but and all of a sudden, but you bounce back. So I think career-wise was definitely the first time I got let go by a company. And I'm not ashamed to say I was. It just happened. And but I had to reassess myself. And that's when I started my personal development journey, candidly, is when that happened. Because I knew something had to change in me. And I took personal ownership of that. And I think that was the difference in my life.
As you were saying that, I was thinking of a conversation I was having with my 7-year-old on the way. We were going to the skating rink. We have one skating rink out here in Hawaii. Actually, they have one right now down in Waikiki that they put, but it's only temporary for the holidays. But we go to the skating rink, and we hadn't been there in well over a year. And the last time we went, my son, my 7-year-old, he was 5 or 6, and he was getting pretty good during that short time we were there. But on the way to the skating rink, he was talking about how good he skates, having not skated in over a year and only skating once, right? And my first inclination would be no, you're not. You're just not that good. You haven't. When have you skated? To kind of tear him down like that. But I thought, you know what? Let me wait just a minute. Let me get him on the ice and let him figure it out himself. And they have these little rail things that they hold on to as they skate to hold him up. But he wanted to go right out and do it without the skates. And he fell, and he got up, and he fell. And then he looked at me, Dad. He said, you know what, Dad? I'm not as good as I thought I was, so let me start with the rail thing. And I was like, all right, cool. He figured it out himself, but I didn't have to tear him down mentally to do that. He figured it out himself because he sees how I react towards certain things as well. So that tearing down part is something that they do in basic training as well. They tear you down to build you back up. And that's just one of those other experiences that I think just make us stronger.
Most definitely. I think you got to go through adversity, and that's one of the biggest regrets I have in my life is not going into the military. And that's, back when I was getting out of college, when all the stuff in Vietnam was just getting over with. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't real popular at that point in time to go into the military. But as I look back, I think I made 2 major mistakes in my life. That was one of them. I should have gone into the military. Second was not finishing my Eagle Scouts and Boy Scouts. Mm-hmm. And my mother told me I would regret it. And she was right.
Wow. Yeah, I never really did get into the Boy Scouts and stuff like that. I have friends, a coworker, in fact, he's still a scout with his sons, with his boys, and it's a pretty cool thing. So, but so what was that pivot point? What made the difference as far as you talked about getting laid off or let go from your sales job that you had? What was the enough is enough moment to where you just decided something's got to change?
Yeah, and I tell you, I can sort of tell you the day. I don't know the date, but I can tell you the day it happened. It was Labor Day, 1991, whatever day of the week that was that week, that year. But the pivot moment was I was in my second sales job. I was doing pretty well. I made President's Club, and I was actually sitting in San Francisco. Well, in San Francisco, we were eating. There was a picture taken of me, and looked like I was so overweight and fat. I looked miserable, and I thought I was everything in a bag of potato chips because I was one of the top salespeople. And that was sort of the kick in the gut, but that was like the pivot moment. You know what? Never again. No, I'm not going to stand for this level that I'm at right now ever again, whether it's physically, financially, whatever it may be. And that's when everything started changing, and that's when I really started putting the metal to the pedal on the personal development and seeking out people. And that's when right after that, I got my first mentor who his name was Bill, and Bill was one of these guys. He drove a pickup truck and wore flannel shirts, and I didn't know much about Bill, but I found out about Bill. He owned 80 movie theaters in North and South Carolina. So Bill was like the Sam Walton of Charlotte, and he took me under his wing, and he sort of gave me that, those life lessons. And that was the pivot moment for me. When I saw that picture, which I still have on my desk, when I was overweight sitting there and just like, I'm better than this.
You mentioned your book a couple times, Moments Matter.
Yep.
Who does that book benefit? Who is it for? And what motivated you to write that?
Well, it was interesting how the motivation came. I'll sort of take that in reverse order. The motivation came is my pre-assistant Vicky and I were talking one day about 2 years ago now in August, this coming August, so about a year and a half plus ago. And she said, if you do nothing else, you need to audio record that entire day of what happened. So your grandkids and their grandkids will really know the story from your lips. And I said, that's interesting you say that, because there's a couple ladies down the street who would always call me and my wife when their TV broke, they needed help. They'd call us, we go down and help them. And one day I was down there helping them, and I saw on their nightstand, their table, that they had these books of pictures. And I started opening them, and there were pictures of Auschwitz and concentration camps. So I'm like, well, where'd you get these? She said, we were there. We grew up there. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there going, this is history. These two elderly Jewish ladies survived the Holocaust. I kept telling them, I said, you need to put this on tape. Before something happens, you need to record. She said, no, we don't talk about that. And so I said, Vicky, let's do that. So we spent about 8 or 9 hours recording every moment of that day and the day afterwards and a couple of days afterwards. All of a sudden, we realized there were like these life lessons that I used as I grew up, and that I was using the day and afterwards. This is some strategies that people could actually use when they face a personal, a traumatic life experience, or I call personal plane crash in their life. So I started documenting these things, and all of a sudden, out of the audio, these 8 or 9 hours of audio tapes, we got with Cindy. Cindy's got a gift that she can take all this disparate information all the way out there and put it in a very cohesive manner. And that's what she did. She took basically the stories and what happened and the lessons and strategies that I used that day into it, and we came together, like we mentioned earlier. The reason we made Moments Matter because we realized all these moments in my life added up to that one major moment. And I cashed out that one moment. And it wasn't just one thing in my life. It was, understanding how to manage my mind and state management, or, the leadership traits that I had, or the teamwork that I brought to the table, whatever it was. So that's how the book came together, and we're very proud of it. We've had a tremendous year, and this year with Moments Matter, and next year we're going to sort of expand it even more.
Wonderful. Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on that book. So, Dave, at this point, we are going to pay it forward to Men of Abundance. You ready to do that?
That's right.
Outstanding. Hey guys, I want to introduce you to the same exact system that I use for my own personal workout. I work out right here at home, right here on my back lanai, and I absolutely love it for so many reasons. One, I don't have to drive to the gym. I just get up between 4:30 and 5, throw on some shorts and my shoes, and grab my computer and head out onto the back lanai and do whatever workout I'm going to be doing for that day. This week I'm doing a 22-minute hardcore with Tony Horton and some veterans. And I'm loving it because I get a great workout in just 22 minutes. But if I don't feel like doing 22-minute hardcore and I feel like I want a more extreme workout, then I'll do Insanity or Asylum. Or if I want something a little bit more toned down, then hell, I can do one of the yoga workouts that are in there. You name it. Anything in between is in Beachbody On Demand. Now, if you do like going to the gym, this is the amazing thing. You can stream Beachbody On Demand on your smartphone, tablet, or computer. Whatever you can put in your gym bag, you can take it to the gym with you. Perfect workout to take to the gym with you would be Body Beast with Sagi Kalev, or Hammer and Chisel with Sagi and Autumn Calabrese. It's like taking a personal trainer with you to the gym. And Beachbody On Demand tracks all of your workouts, which is extremely important, as I'm sure you know. All of your meal plans are built right in there, the calendars, everything you need for your health and nutrition is built into Beachbody On Demand. But I want you to try it out before you fully commit to it. And the way you can do that is get a 30-day free trial by going to menofabundance.com/BOD. If it's not everything I'm talking about, if it's not everything that you feel you need for a workout program, then just cancel before you get charged. But even when you do decide that it's everything you've been looking for in a workout program, you only get charged $38.87 every 3 months. So you get access to hundreds of workout programs, meal plans that you can personalize to yourself, all the calendars, and you can get 10% discounts on all the other Beachbody products. So to get started today, go to menofabundance.com/BOD or click in the link of the show notes and it'll take you right there so you can get started today. Now let's get back to the show. So give Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today.
Well, the first thing I would say tell Men of Abundance is look for a place you can give gratitude to, and I do that every day. And whether it's to, and I do most of mine to the American Red Cross. I believe you got to contribute. Contribute is where the truth growth in life comes from. It's where your true growth comes from. So first, every day, find somebody you can give gratitude to, or pay it forward that way. Second, take care. Do something to help your body. Whether it's working out, eating right, whatever it is, get up. The first thing you do is get your body in shape, because that will help you get your mind in shape. The third thing is if you see somebody in need, and I've seen Tony do this, and I started doing this, I might give him a couple bucks. Because one thing I realized, and I'm going to talk about in my TED Talk coming up, is I don't know people's backstories. I was pretty judgmental. This is where sort of the third point: don't be judgmental. Because you don't know people's backstories. You don't know where they came from. And all of a sudden, as soon as I changed that perspective, my worldview started opening up, and I started having more gratitude in my life, and people started coming to me. So I would say the third thing is don't be judgmental. Focus on helping somebody else, and try to understand that everybody's got a backstory in their life, and you can help them likewise, just like they can help you.
Wonderful. I absolutely love that. And I do want to give some love to the Red Cross, because I know, as listening to you before and talking to you last time, that they were a huge part of the success that day of the crash. They were there
3 times. They were there 3 times for me, Wally. I mean, first right there at the shore in New Jersey. They were one of the 3 people helping me to the triage as a Red Cross supporter. So I donate my time and help them raise money they need, because there's disasters going all over the world at all times. And whether it's this recently we had here in Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, the fires, and they were there for 2 weeks. So thank you for doing that, because I think if you have blood, if you have blood, give it. If you have time, donate it. If you have some money, contribute, because you never know when maybe you or your family needs that help.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So what daily habits make the biggest impact in your life?
Well, I mean, the first daily habit, and I sort of write about this at Moments Matters, and I just sort of mentioned it before, is I think you got to get your body going at all times. So every day, first thing I do is I get up and I work out. I do something to help my body, because that helps my mindset throughout the day. So when things get a little tough, at least I've got that going for me. I do the second thing I really talk about, my rituals, is it's an hour of power, but it's really not an hour. It's really about 15 minutes now that I focus in and focus on outcomes for the day, not actions. And once Tony sort of taught me that trick of how he does his time management. And when he shared that with me, he shares it with everybody, but when he and I sat together, he showed it to me. It made a lot of sense. So I do that every day. I focus on the 1 or 2 or 3 outcomes and what actions do I need to take to get those outcomes. So it's instead of an hour power, it's like 15 minutes to get it done. And the third thing I would say is, and one thing as being an entrepreneur is you got to know where your money's going. And I never did that very well until I started doing this myself. So the third thing the ritual I do is I always look at the cash accounts and where we're at and what we need to do and make sure that everything is where it needs to go and people are paid. So I say those 3 things, health, investment in yourself, and make sure your financials are in shape.
Wonderful. Absolutely love it. And definitely got to get that blood flowing, get that blood moving through your body, guys. So what book would you recommend to, other than, and even if it is your book, Moments Matter, but what book would you recommend to our abundant leaders and why?
Well, of course Moments Matter, but the book has really had a lot of influence on me the last few years. It's called The Fourth Turning by Howard Strauss. And the reason it has, and the reason I would suggest this book, is that it really helps you understand patterns. Yeah, and one of the things that Tony taught me, and he values probably as much as anything else, and when I talk about in Moments Matter a little bit, is the skill of anticipation. Knowing what that next thing is, so you're ready for it mentally, physically, and emotionally. So this book, The Fourth Turning, gives you the history of why all these things have happened through history and how they repeat themselves on a seasonal basis. The fourth turning, every fourth season that comes back, whether it's winter, summer, spring, or fall of that part of your life. And once I really started learning this and realizing this, I've applied it, and it's actually pretty accurate. So I can have the ability now, and I've always been looking for improvement, but the ability to anticipate what that next step, whether it's what's going on politically in the country, whether it's what's going on in the church world, whether it's going on in financials, it helps me understand so I can at least be ready for it. Unless if I can't take advantage of it, at least be ready for it. So it's called Fourth Turning by Strauss and Howe.
Do you know if that book's in audio?
It is an audio. It is an audio. It's in Kindle now. When I got it, I got a hard copy because I got it when it first came out probably 10 years ago. What
about your book? Is it in audio yet?
Well, that's our project that's coming up right next. We wanted to get this out last year, so this year's project is turning into an audio book because we have so many requests. And how it came about, Wally, was it was on the agenda, but it's moved up on the agenda because I did a radio interview with a gentleman who was blind. And he wanted to talk about the book, and he said, a big gift you could give to people is putting an audio book so people like me can hear it. And all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? That's tremendous. So, yes, it will be an audio book in the next 3 to 4 months.
Excellent. And I appreciate that, too, because I do like to read. I don't always have the time to read. So when I'm walking around the house or I'm commuting or I'm in my kayak or out running around, I'm listening to audio books or I'm listening to podcasts. And when the book is something I want to study, then I get the hard copy so I can keep it for notes and stuff like that. But Men of Abundance, I want to let you know that I have partnered with Audible. And what that means to you is you can get a 30-day free trial with Audible and at the same time get a free book. So you can get that free book, and I'll have that link in the show notes. And Dave, I truly appreciate your time. Before we let you go here, I want to ask you to give us a parting piece of guidance in any way that we can reach you and get a hold of your book.
Well, thank you very much. I very appreciate you having me on today, and I hope everybody has a tremendous new year coming up. I guess one thing I'll leave is this. And it's sort of giving me some guides. Is the meanings that I attach to things, really has changed and produces the emotion of my life. And once I start realizing the power of meanings, and what I attach to, you can attach positive things just like you attach negative things. You can reframe things all you want. So I would leave the audience with the listeners to, be conscious of the meanings that you attach to things. And because you're constantly creating things in your life, and you can be empowering or it can be demoralizing. And that one little thing can effectively change the entire direction of your life. You can get a hold of me at DaveSandersonSpeaks.com. I have ways you can contact me verbally or through email, and I respond to everybody personally. If you like to sort of track on some things that are going on or where I'll be, that's my website. Likewise, DaveSandersonSpeaks.com. I have my entire schedule there. At Facebook, I'm at Dave Sanderson Speaks. And LinkedIn, I'm at David Sanderson. That's where I leave sort of my business lessons and strategies. And Twitter is Dave Sanderson too, where I give those little updates from the day and where I'm at and what's going on, and some insights from other people that I've learned from that day that hopefully can impact somebody else's life.
That's perfect. Hey, I got one last question for you. I actually skipped over this, and it's like my most important question. I can't believe I just skipped over it. So the last question that I have for you, Dave, is this. What does living a life of abundance mean to you?
Living a life of abundance, what that means to me is, I really have joy in my life, not just happiness, but I'm in that state of joy where nothing really starts bothering me. My family's at peace. I'm at peace. I'm adding value. I'm impacting other people's life, and that's where I feel like I'm living my life of abundance when I do that. When one of the things in my life, and I'll just end up with like this, is one of probably the darkest times of my life is when I was so focused on my own personal significance, and that was when I was in my early 20s and mid 20s, where it was all about me. But once I started figuring out that check your ego at the door, focus on how you can add value to other people, all of a sudden the life opened up for me, and all of a sudden the miracle on the Hudson happens, and now I get to travel the world and meet people and hopefully impact people's lives, which is truly my life's mission.
Yeah, I think that 20-year-old in all of us, I know it was certainly me, I was all about me, without a doubt.
Yep.
And once you make that focus, man, seriously, once you make that focus on how you can add value to other people and realize that you already have abundance in your life, no matter where you're at in your life at this point in time, things turn on a dime, 180-degree difference in your life once you make that realization. And Dave, I truly appreciate your time again. Your story is just simply amazing. And not just the story, the miracle on the Hudson, but everything else about your life is truly remarkable. And I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you very much. And God bless, and hope everybody has a tremendous new year.
You too. All right, have a good day. All right, Abundant Leaders, I told you that was an entertaining conversation, or at least I thought so anyway, and I definitely got a lot out of that conversation. Dave is truly an amazing individual. Him and I have talked. We talked before the interview for, goodness, like an hour and a half or something like that, and we've talked since the interview. Ever since I've been connected with Dave and him and I have had conversations, he has connected me with so many other people. It just blows my mind. In fact, Dave is the third person that I've talked to that has personally worked with Tony Robbins. So I'm one person removed from Tony Robbins times 3, and 2 people removed from Les Brown, who is just another one of my mentors from afar. And I do look forward to having a personal one-on-one conversation with at some point in time, whether it's for the show or not. So again, I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I did. If you did, please share it with others. Subscribe and leave a rating and review on iTunes. It really helps out the show so much. I can't express just how much it helps out the show. And go out and live your life of abundance, and make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.